Alright guys, happy Monday. Today is Memorial Day, so we'll hit on that a little bit here at the end of the show. But for the day, let's learn a little bit about, let's try the old compass here, if it'll focus. So let's learn about the compass. We'll learn the parts of a compass. We'll show you, how about we'll talk about maps for just a little bit. So we'll talk about contour maps. And then we'll talk a little bit maybe about the different parts of how to use a compass out in the woods. But this is just kind of an intro to using a compass, intro to orienteering, just enough to get lost out in the woods. Alright, so let's talk, I'm going to turn that around and we'll show you the parts of a compass right here, okay? Alright, so let's talk about the parts of a compass here. We have most of them all labeled out. The first thing we have is the base plate. So we'll look at the real compass, or the base plate is going to be this big, the plastic part, this flat piece right there. That is the base plate. Alright, the next thing we have is going to be the direction of travel arrow. So the direction of travel arrow, focus fox, is going to be this red arrow right there. So we're pointing that in the direction that we're going to travel, and we'll adjust and we'll know what direction we're going from there. And then the next one we have is the magnetic needle. So right here we can see ours is black and red. The red's going to point to north, the black's pointing to south, okay? So red's going north, black's pointing south. Alright, we keep going around here. We have the orienteering lines. So they're the straight up and down lines next to the orienteering arrow. So we'll see here if we can focus fox again. You can see the little black lines that are down inside the housing. Those are the orienteering lines. The next thing we have is the compass housing with the degree dial. And that is the piece that spins around that says what direction of degree we're traveling. So it's this black dial right here. Has all the different degrees on it. 0 to 360, north, south, east, west. And that is your dial. Direction of travel, kind of the compass housing dial. The next one is we have the orienting arrow. And so we call that the shed. We try to put red in the shed, and that keeps us, kind of make sure we're traveling in the right direction. So for here, we have the same thing. So the orienting arrow is right there. Top of it's black. The bottom of, top of it's red. The bottom of it's black. And so we would spin that to put red in the shed. So we would travel the right direction. And then we have the index line, which is this very kind of faint line that we would line up our, degree of travel on. And on mine, it is white. So this very fine line right there, as you can see, it stays in the same place, but as I spin this around, I can help line up and say, I'm going to travel 120 degrees, and that will keep me on the right one. I'm not just kind of guessing, I'm not kind of looking and saying, maybe I'm traveling 120. I can kind of know that I'm heading in the right direction. So, parts of a compass. The base plate, direction of travel arrow, the magnetic needle, the orienting lines, compass housing with the degree dial. I kind of call that the bezel, orienting arrow, and the index line. And some compasses, they might even have a scale on it. So if you have a map that is to scale, this the same scale as that one right there, I can kind of figure out how far I'm traveling. I think mine has 2 or 3 scales on it. So there's another scale up there, one on the side, and it even has a little tape measure on it that you can work with. So that's the parts of a compass. So that'll help us go from there, okay? Alright, so let's talk about our magnetic needle right there. So it's, like it says, it's magnetic. So if it is anywhere near metal, it's going to go crazy. It's not going to give you the right direction. So I've got my pocket knife right here, made of metal, and just watch what I can do so I can make it spin. So see, now it's telling me that north is the other direction. If I bring it off, it's showing me north is that way. So you can see that I can make this move around. So if you're anywhere near metal or setting your compass down trying to think that you're getting the right direction, you could be getting yourself completely wrong and heading in the wrong direction. So make sure your compass is kind of free of metal. You can see if you might have even could be a metal ring on that could mess you up. So it could be watch, ring, knife, belt buckle if you're holding it near your belt. That's gonna cause your arrow to point in the wrong direction. So you want to make sure that you're not near any metal to help get the right direction. You need to find a good quality compass, okay? Why won't you focus on the compass? There we go. So you need to find a good quality compass. Nothing probably from Walmart is going to be good enough. They might have a good one. I haven't bought a compass in a while because I bought something that's going to last. So this brand is Suunto, really good compass brand. I don't know if it will focus in enough. You can see the name, but you want to find you a good compass. None of those compasses that are like this small, they fit in the palm of your hand. You can barely see what direction it is. Most of the time, them things are going back and forth. Nothing like that. So you want a good quality backpacking, hiking, camping, orienteering compass, okay? Suunto is a really good brand. I can't think of any other ones off my head, but you can do some research, look up good quality compasses, and that's what you want to go with, okay? So find you a good quality compass, and that's going to help you along your way. Something that you can actually see the dial, you can read the numbers. It's going to point to north every single time, and it's not going to be north this way once and north that way the second time. That's not any fun. So find a good quality compass. That's kind of the basic start of learning how to use a compass, how to orienteer your way through the woods, is having something that's going to work. You know, a lot of people, they don't really know how to use compasses anymore because everybody's got a smartphone, everybody's got a GPS, and so they can pull up, they can pinpoint where they are, and they can, I guess, get their way out of the woods. But what happens when your cell phone battery is dead, GPS is not picking up any satellite, or that battery is dead, and now you are down to your compass. So at least if you have a compass, you're not going to worry about batteries. You can get your way out of the woods. You don't have to worry about satellites being in the right position to pick up on the GPS, none of that stuff. So this is kind of your, for some people, might be their last resort. But hey, it's kind of fun to know how to use it. Grab you one, learn about it, learn the parts, learn about maps, and then we'll kind of go from there. Alright, so let's talk direction on a compass. So compass, it's a circle. So that gives us 360 degrees that we can travel in. And we have the different directions. So north, south, east, and west. Between that, there's northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, north, northeast, south, southwest. All those different directions that you can travel in, and everything in between that, right? So there's 0, 360 degrees. You can kind of see I have my homemade compass here that is kind of for educational purposes. You can kind of see at the top that as I'm spinning it around, I can line it up to certain degrees. It's got all the same parts that the other compass does, and this is going to help us show us in a second how to maybe take a bearing and follow that bearing. Alright, so we have north at the very top. Right there we have north. So north kind of represents 2 degrees, 0, as well as 360. Most of the times you're going to hear it referenced as 360 degrees. That's where we're going to travel. You might not hear it much as 0 degrees. So we have 0 degrees. If we keep spinning it, we're going to spin it all the way to east. And east is 90 degrees. We keep spinning it around. We got south. South is 180. Then we have west is 275. 270, I mean. Excuse me, not 275, 270. And then you can see all the different degrees that are in there, okay? So 0 to 360, north is 0 or 360, and it kind of goes around from there. Alright, so we have kind of, you can see here, it's kind of listed out again. North 360, east is 90, south is 180, west is 270, and then it kind of shows you the northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest kind of compass directions. So let's try to pretend like we need to take a bearing from where I'm standing, and I need to take a bearing to see what's that direction. So I would take my compass, I'm going to face where I need to travel, and I'm going to line up with my direction of travel arrow. I'm going to point that towards maybe the tree I need to get to. I'm then going to start turning my bezel or my dial until the magnetic needle is inside the what I call the red in the shed. So you want to make sure that the magnetic dial is pointing the north, and that's going to tell you the direction that you're going to travel. So I'm going to grab my compass, turn the camera down, and we'll kind of show you. Alright, so let's say that I need to travel the direction that my compass is pointing. What I'm going to do, I now have it pointing in the right direction that I need to go, whatever that degrees is. Let's see what degree I need to travel in, okay? So you can see I have the magnetic needle. I need to make sure it is lined up with the orienting arrow or the shed. So we need to put red in the shed. So I'm going to turn my dial until that needle is lined up in that shed, and that would give us a direction of bearing as almost south. Looks like it might be 100 and maybe 79, something like that, degrees that we're going to travel in. And so if I can start right here, I could keep my red in the shed and I could walk as straight as I can, and that would kind of stay on 179 degree bearing, okay? So we'll do it again. If I needed to go in this direction over here, boom, I'm holding it flat. I'm going to turn that dial until my magnetic needle is in that orienting arrow. And then I'm going to check and see what bearing it says I need to follow. It is almost east, a little past east, so it's probably about 91, 92 degrees. I would find a tree that, or an object that's on that line. I'd pick to it, and I could walk to that line, and then I could get on the other side of that object, reline up, find something else that's still in that line, and I could keep on trucking and follow that until wherever I needed to go. So we'll do this on the big compass. It's not telling me the real direction. So let's just say I need to travel that direction over there, and let's just say my needle is pointing that way. So I would need to turn my dial until the red is in the shed, just like that. And it's telling me I need to travel 229 degrees. That's my direction of travel, my bearing that I'm going is 229 degrees. So we can just mix it up again. Let's say north is that way, is this way. Boom, I'm going to turn my dial, lining up red in the shed, and I'm traveling at 270 degrees. So I'm going due west, and that's how you will kind of use your compass to at least know what direction you're traveling. Alright, so right here I have two different kind of maps. I have two contour line maps, and then I have an aerial map. Alright, so contour maps help us kind of see the contour, the shape, the lay of the land. So let's flip this around here. So we can kind of see, this kind of shows the different contour lines, okay? So contour lines is kind of the elevation at a certain point around something. So we can kind of see right here we have lines that are very close together, and then we can kind of see the across the way. This is what it actually looked like if you were looking at kind of a side shot of it. So we see lines that are very close and tight together. That's going to make it very pointed and steep. Over here we can see where it rises up, and then it stops, and then drops down, and then it shoots back up, and you can kind of see what it looks like over here. So here we can see we have two kind of mounds or two peaks, and then we have what's called a saddle right there in the middle. So you can see where it rises up, it hits the peak of one, it drops back down to the saddle, and then it rises back up to crest back over, and it looks just like that one. you can kind of see where it's really, really steep. We have lines that are very, very close together. So over here we can see it's very steep, very steep. Lines are close together, and then it kind of flattens back out and kind of gets a gradual decline. So it's gradual over here. And then kind of the reverse of that. Very gradual at first, and then very steep on the backside. Then we kind of have the same thing we do up here. This is more kind of like a valley. So it kind of comes up very, very steep, hits the peak of the hill or the mountain, drops back down into the valley, and then shoots back up to another peak. So this is kind of how you read contour lines on a topo map or a topographic map. Okay. Let me grab a really good one here. We can look in here, and we can see that it kind of tells us the elevation at certain points along this map. So if it will focus in, focus Fox, so we can see right here where my thumb is, it says 800, and that is 800 feet as the elevation. And then if we jump to the next line up, so if this line we follow it around, we can see that right there it hits it, and it is 1,000 feet. Okay, so the contour lines, we have the index lines, and those are the ones that are the dark lines, and they have the elevation at it. Alright, so we remember index lines, they're the dark ones. That usually shows what the elevation is. So you can see all around this circle, in this loop, as long as it stays in a solid line, and it's going to feed its way back to this one as 1,000 feet. We go down the next kind of dark line, and that one says it's 800. So that's the index lines. They're the kind of the solid dark lines. So if we look, if it'll focus, in between those two dark lines, we have some thinner lines, and those are kind of the intermediate lines. They don't have any numbers on them. And most maps, this one is, I just printed this off, it doesn't have it on it, but it would have kind of the interval of what each step would be. So for this map, I kind of had to figure it out, and it is 40 feet for every single step it hits. So we start at 800 feet, the next line up would be 840, 880, yada yada, all the way up to 1,000 feet. So most maps are going to show kind of an interval of each intermediate line is 50 feet, 100 feet. It really depends on the terrain, how much elevation there is around there. Here's another example of a topographic map. You can see there's lots of little lines on this one, because this has lots of different valleys and ridges and saddles and peaks. Alright, so let's look again at this topographic map, and let's look close, and we can see kind of what, how this other one show the different elevations. So if we were to look right here where it says dripping rocks, we can see all these little lines, boom, they're really close together. That must tell us something that is very steep right there. And so it must go from the river edge, and it must shoot up, boom, to the top of this peak. And it must be very, very steep, because we can see these lines are very, very close together. And then as we get to the top, they kind of spread out. You can see there's kind of the peak of this mountain or the area of the hill right there. And then it slopes back down. We can kind of see a valley. So we see it's kind of steep right there. But we can kind of see this nice little valley where this creek runs through. So if we were to take the aerial map of that, so if we look at the aerial of this same map and we looked at it, you can't quite tell how steep it is. So where it was steep was right there. So boom, nice and steep right through there. Look at the map, you can't quite tell, but you can kind of get a picture of kind of valleys though. So if you look here, this is that same kind of valley where that creek ran. So boom. Creek runs right there. So once you start looking at aerial maps, comparing them to topo maps, your brain kind of starts thinking, oh, that's what it starts looking like. So every time you see these topo maps, you kind of automatically can kind of picture what an overhead picture would look like. Alright, so we have our map, We got a compass. We want to make sure that we are traveling in the right direction, so we need to orient our map to north. Most maps will have somewhere on it, it'll have where it says north and a point up. And for the most part, most maps are going to be oriented with north being at the top of the map. Not always. You might find some rare maps that don't. So this one has the north printed on top of it, and it shows the arrow. So I'm going to set that on the table. I'm going to find my compass. I'm going to make the degree read north. And then I'm going to get my compass pointing north, and I'm going to start turning my map, and I'm going to line up my map with north. Okay? Alright, so you can see that I have to turn my map almost completely 180 degrees to get it facing the other direction, to have my map facing where the north on the map is actually correlated to the north on my compass, okay? So from there, I can start taking, if I knew exactly where I was, if I was down here at the trailhead, or if I was at the some peak of a mountain, I can start taking my bearings and start figuring out which direction I need to travel. Again, how to orient your map is to make sure you know your map, where north is on your map. This is not the very best map that I could grab, but most of them are going to have north probably up here at the top corner. You're going to get your compass, you're going to set your bearing to north, and then you're going to start turning your map to line up with the north on a compass. So when we're kind of orienting our map to north, some maps they have kind of grid lines on them. So some maps are going to have lines going north and south as well as cutting across the page. And that's going to help us line up to north as well. So if that's the case, what we can do is we can take our orienting lines and we can set that on top of one of those lines, and that can help us move that map around, move our compass in the map around to get it to sitting at north. So we can set our map down on the line, and then we can start turning it until we're reading north. This map doesn't have any of those lines, so I'm just kind of going off my north right there. Alright, so that is about it for compasses for the day. It's definitely not everything you need to know to get out there and explore with the compass, but it's enough to start thinking, getting your head wrapped around there, learn the different parts of a compass, learn how to play with it, how to set it, get to know it, figure out how to take a bearing, start looking at maps, learning about contour lines, about how to read contour lines, what hills and valleys and steep faces look like, and just start kind of practicing. And once you start practicing a lot, you'll be good at looking at a map and being able to pick out where you want to go and pretty much walk straight to it. That's something I've learned over the years. Pretty much fun to do. I can look at an aerial, look at a topo map, know where I'm starting at, know which way I need to head, and I can pretty much land exactly where I need to be. Just fun part about being an outdoorsman is all these different skills you get to learn. So maybe we'll come back and visit compasses again, and we'll actually hop out there in the woods and I'll show you how to take a good bearing, and we'll just learn something else. This is just enough to get you in trouble, and just kind of get your brain thinking about, ooh, that could be fun to learn about. Anyway, that's it for this part of it. So today is Memorial Day, and so I just wanted to take a second. And so Memorial Day is about remembering those that have served our country and who have given that great ultimate sacrifice and have died while serving our country. So let's just take a quick little moment of silence, and we'll remember them. and we'll thank them for their service. So as you go the rest of your Memorial Day, remember those ones that have paid the ultimate sacrifice to keep America free. And remember the ones that we still have serving us, our troops. Remember them. Thank them when you see them. And have a good rest of your day, guys. Be safe. Have fun. Go learn about compasses. Go find you a compass. And we'll just kind of see you next time.